What's going on, everybody? This is Marcelo, founder of Wenger's House, and I'm so excited to finally be launching the Wenger's House YouTube channel. For any of you who might be new, I started Wenger's House as an Instagram account back in April 2021, and that was, of course, I hate to remind us, when Arsenal was in its worst form in 30 years or so. And I started Wenger's House really just as a place to vent my frustrations and my emotions, but of course also as a place to share my analysis, my insights, my opinions on all things Arsenal, and to create a community for us, really, for all of us to come together in sharing our opinions. And, I didn't realize how many of us were in a similar place of needing that community. And so the community really took off. And so we're now almost 48,000 strong on Instagram. So thank you to all of our housemates who've made Wenger's House such a beautiful and international community. We have folks from 6 continents and over 80 countries that make up Wenger's House. So, I'm just so grateful to have met so many of you from around the world and to be able to speak with all of you about Arsenal and just learn from all of you about your cultures and your views on the club we all love so much. Now, I'm grateful to say that in the time since I started Wenger's House, Arsenal, thanks to Mikel Arteta, Edu Gaspar, Richard Garlick, and yes, we have to say now, of course, the Cronkies, Arsenal has become one of the most exciting football teams and projects in the world. And so it's really been an honor to document that journey from being in the worst form we've seen in a lot of our lifetimes to what is now a team that really feels like it's on the verge of winning that major silverware that we haven't seen for 20 years now, over 20 years, really. So, quickly, I want to acknowledge that, of course, the setup I have right now for this YouTube channel is not where I envision it being in the near future, hopefully. A little bit of context for where I'm at in life. Just over a year ago, I moved from Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States to London to pursue a master's degree in digital media at London Metropolitan University, which is around the corner from the Emirates. That was not a coincidence, I will admit fully to you here, full transparency to our housemates. And so last month, I just completed that master's program, and so I am now branching out. It's the start of a new chapter. Of course, it is a bit daunting, but I'm really excited as well to be starting that new chapter, and I feel like really launching this YouTube channel is a perfect avenue, or one of the ideal avenues through which I can start that new chapter. So, without further ado, let's get into the first topic of the Wenger's House YouTube channel, and that is the Ben White Conundrum. Now, I want to introduce this topic by saying and making very clear that I, like all of you, am such a big fan of Ben White. He has not put a foot wrong since we signed him in 2021 for £50 million from Brighton. Of course, a lot of rival fans and pundits in general, and even a lot of Arsenal fans, questioned the £50 million price tag that we paid. But I think that it has become evident in the time since he's played for us that he has been more than worth that price tag. He has been Mr. Reliable. He's one of the first names on the team sheet always. He's always fit, and he just is such a consistent performer for us. Now, of course, the inspiration behind recording this video is the fact that this is actually the first stretch of time where he has been out through injury. Really the first time that we've seen him miss more than one game. And even the one game is such a rarity. So, the majority of this video isn't talking about Ben White because he doesn't really have any shortcomings. It's really more about one of our summer signings, the first summer signing we made this past summer, and that was Riccardo Calafiori, the left back / center back from Bologna. A lot of fans were questioning, because all of the talk was around a new striker or a winger who could provide backup for Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka, even a midfielder. A lot of us weren't expecting Mikel Arteta's first signing to be another defender. But in the time since Riccardo Calafiori has joined and started to play some serious minutes in the absence of Ben White, I think it has become quite clear why we made the signing. And I think the main thing that is most apparent is that he's been almost as much of an attacking signing as he has been a defensive signing. And so at the beginning of the season, we saw Jurrien Timber, who of course missed all of last season through injury, We saw him starting at left back, and he's done an excellent job when playing at left back. But we have to remember the majority of his young career so far, remember, he's still such a young player, has been at right back and as well as center back, but primarily at right back. And so he's shown that he's more than capable of playing on either side as a fullback. But with Ben White now being injured, Jurrien Timber has moved to right back, and since he's played at right back, he's been phenomenal as well. The technicality and the physicality that he's shown has been incredible, and it's not much of a surprise. We sort of knew that that was the case, but of course, having not seen him last season, we are now seeing why he has been, why he was so sought after by Mikel Arteta, right? And so we have now seen Ricardo Calafiori stepping in and starting at left back. His first start for us, of course, coming against Manchester City at the Etihad. And so I want to first address some clear room for growth for Calafiori. I think first I want to acknowledge that, Bologna, right? It's a big step up from Bologna to Arsenal, one of the biggest clubs in the world. And Calafiori helped Bologna qualify for the Champions League for the first time in decades last season. And so it's a big step up in terms of the standard, the expectations, the pressure. And I think that he's handled that pressure brilliantly. But in the first few games where he's really played from the start for us, I think there have been moments where it's evident that he still has some growth to do as a defender. And I think that that's something that will naturally come with time and coaching and experience because he is a natural defender. Let's not forget. And so acknowledging a few moments where he has shown that room for growth is first and foremost the Savio goal, or sorry, not the Savio goal, but the Savio setup for Erling Haaland's goal to open the scoring at the Etihad against Manchester City. I call him Savio, by the way, because he only started going by Savinho when he moved to Manchester City this summer. So it was very much a marketing move for him to add that extra flair to his name, but I'm going to call him Savio. So Savio took a really smart touch to bring him inside, where he was then able to find that space and catch us off guard, where he played that through ball to Haaland, who then scored. But Calafiori was caught a bit on his back foot there for that goal. Then you look at the Leicester City equalizer when they scored. James Justin had a beautiful volley, one that he couldn't replicate if he even tried to. And this is a bit nitpicky, of course. I mean, this isn't something where we're really pointing at Calafiori necessarily, but you could see if you were to rewatch the goal, he slightly misread the flight of the cross to James Justin before he volleyed it in off the post. And so again, that's a moment where maybe he could be marking James Justin a little bit tighter, or if he reads the flight a little more clearly, he could very likely head it out for a throw-in or just clear it with a header. And then the last one I'd like to point out is against Southampton. Tyler Dibbling, I think, has the makings of one of those wingers who just, he's going to be causing trouble for all defenders, really, whoever he comes up against. And I do have to say I enjoy watching him as a player. But against Southampton as well, he got the better of Calafiori. Calafiori went around the outside and created a chance for Southampton that we were a bit fortunate they didn't capitalize on. So first acknowledging, right, he does have those moments where we can see that he clearly has room for growth as a defender. However, I do also want to say that he has shown some really strong moments as a defender as well. A couple of really good slide tackles and numerous moments where he's read a pass and read a passage of play and intercepted the ball really smartly and efficiently and retained possession for us. So, he clearly has the makings of a really good defender. But I also want to think of Calafiori sort of through the lens of Alexander Zinchenko. Now, Alexander Zinchenko, when he first signed for us in summer of 2022, was something of a revelation, right? He was, a breath of fresh air. He offered us something in attack that we hadn't seen before. And in possession, he was really the first player that we had inverting with Arteta, evolving his style of play as his players became more and more his own, and he was able to really implement and enforce his own style of play, his own philosophy. And so Zinchenko, when he inverted, he just gave us that X factor that teams weren't really prepared for, especially in the first half of the season where he gets on the ball, he's demanding the ball, and he's able to play these really smart passes and just recycle possession in a way that opened things up for us in attack. And so at the same time, I think we saw over time that he also was really struggling at times defensively. And it's important to remember that he is a midfielder by trade and by craft. It was Pep Guardiola who converted him to a left back while Mikel Arteta was his assistant coach at Manchester City. And so, seeing him at left back, you sort of see those vulnerabilities. And so in comparing Zinchenko and Calafiori, first, Calafiori is a natural defender. He is a center back and now a left back as well by trade. And so with that in mind, he's also much younger than Zinchenko. And so he's going to be growing a lot as a defender, and he will strengthen his defensive capacity. But at the same time, his physicality is already a clear difference between himself and Zinchenko. And so that's a really exciting thing in terms of the dynamic of our left back and our inverted left back, where Calafiori offers something that Zinchenko does not. But also in attack, we've seen already what Calafiori has to offer. Of course, the easy thing to point at is his incredible goal in his first ever start, his full debut for Arsenal against Manchester City, where he bent it into the far corner perfectly. And it's not the angle that you would expect or favor from a left-footed player to be hitting it from the left side of the 18-yard box across the keeper that way. It was an incredible finish, and it sort of showed what he's capable of producing something special. Now, we're not going to expect him to now do that on a consistent basis. But even I think it was against Bolton in the Carabao Cup, it was either Bolton or PSG. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting at this very moment. But he even cut back onto his right foot from about 20, 25 yards and just banged one looking for the top corner. And he wasn't that far off, considering that it was his weak foot. So he's a really exciting player, but also something that you'll see from Calafiori, and we've also seen it from Timber playing both as a left back and a right back, is that our fullbacks now are really pushing up to be part of that front line. And it's almost a front line of five now, where you have, giving the example from last season at least, we had Jurrien Timber, Kai Havertz, Gabriel Martinelli, Ben White, or sorry, I'm forgetting now. Timber, Martinelli, Havertz, Odegaard, and Saka, right? So we're really pushing our fullbacks up into that front line. But even this season, you've already seen moments where Calafiori is pushing up. There's this example against PSG where he was involved in a passage of play in build-up for our attack, where he's central and high up the pitch, and he plays the ball out wide and ends up leading to a chance for Bukayo Saka, who tried to bend one into the top corner himself. So you see these moments where Calafiori is really aggressive in trying to get us upfield and get involved in the play upfield, because technically he is so comfortable in possession and he is such a progressive-minded player that he's happy to push himself on into those spaces and really look to contribute to our attack. And so in the context now of bringing it back to Ben White, right, you now have Calafiori, who's really, really confident in the final third, and Jurrien Timber, who is so sound defensively while also having the technical capacity to be confident in possession in these tight spaces. And now, again, none of this is to say that Ben White doesn't have those things, because he does. We know how industrious he is overlapping with Saka and offering that option. And of course, there are moments where he gets into these tight spaces and just shows this audacity as a fullback. You think about his nutmeg on Doku against Manchester City when we were holding on to a 1-0 lead, moments away from our first win against Manchester City in, over a decade in the league at least, right? And we've seen these cheeky moments from him. I think, was it also Anthony? I think he nutmegged Anthony or got past him. I remember him nutmegging Mason Mount at Stamford Bridge when we won there a couple of years ago. So we've seen these moments. Ben White is more than capable of having some tech to him, right? Some clever footwork. But I think that when you have Calafiori and Timber showing this level, it's hard to justify taking them out of the starting 11. And I know so many fans are saying Ben White comes straight back into the starting 11 when he's fit again. And you certainly can make that argument. And I can't say anything again that is, against Ben White and what he does so well as a player. I just think that when you consider how much our side is developing and our system is developing, I do think that the technical levels of Timber and Calafiori are raising the standard. And in saying that, I think that, and shout out to my boy Tilo Flames, Romario, for this conversation I had with him. But this is a moment where Ben White can finally look at these guys because he hasn't really had any serious competition at right back since he came in. Takehiro Tomiyasu, of course, is a brilliant player and I love him, but it's no secret that he's struggled for fitness really since he joined the team. So, since White has taken over that right back role, it's really just been him. And so I think he finally finds himself in a place where he's looking at these players who are really giving him a run for his money. And so I think White now can take this on as a challenge to up his game. And everyone in the team has to do so, right? It's not just White. It's also White putting pressure on Timber and Calafiori as well to up their game. But I think that we are blessed with this problem of having such incredible defensive depth. When you think about the arsenal of the really the 2010s and how poor we were defensively, we now find ourselves with, in my opinion, the best defensive depth in the Premier League. And so that's just something that we have to appreciate given what we've come from. And so I see the Ben White conundrum not as a reflection of Ben White not being of the level at all. It's more just a reflection of how monstrous of a defense Mikel Arteta has created since he took over. And it was no secret when you think of Gabriel being the marquee signing, really the first signing that I think sort of symbolizes the Mikel Arteta project. Since then, defense has been his main focus. And, Arteta still has only really signed one striker, and that is Gabriel Jesus. And so, of course, Kai Havertz is now our main striker, and he's brilliant, one of the best in Europe. I think that when Arteta signed him, he did fully know that Havertz was capable of being a great striker. You think of Thomas Tuchel comparing him to Robin van Persie, and Dimitar Berbatov comparing Havertz to himself as the player he sees most similar to him in the Premier League. We did initially sign him, at least on the surface level, as a midfielder. So Arteta has really, really focused so much more heavily on our defense. And so with this depth now, with Ben White now for the first time really being on the outside looking in, of course, due to him being injured, it's not like he's just been benched. It won't necessarily, in my opinion, be easy for him to regain that starting spot. Now, Timber as well has now been out through injury. And so that's a factor as well to keep an eye on. And he's been having a couple of niggling, bits here and there since he's returned. It's important to remember he was out for so long. So it's natural that his body is still adjusting to this level of intensity. And Arteta mentioned not too long ago that they hadn't really planned for him to have such a high number of minutes. It was really Ben White being injured that really forced the agenda here and forced the issue for Timber to be starting as much as he is. But now, with this being the international break, of course, I'm recording and posting this on the last day before the return of the Premier League. It's going to be really interesting to see who's starting. It's not entirely clear, and I could be wrong because I haven't watched Arteta's press conference. And in fact, I think it's just taken place. So apologies for not watching that beforehand. Future reference, that's something I should definitely aim to do when recording on Fridays or before, Premier League action in general. But we now likely have the availability, hopefully, of both Timber and White. So Calafiori is definitely fit. It'll be really interesting now to see who is Arteta going to go with. Is it going to be Timber? Or with his minutes, needing to be monitored a little bit, is White now back fully fit to start again? We'll find out very soon. It's really sad because Takehiro Tomiyasu apparently has suffered another injury setback, and it's just looking more and more bleak for him in terms of his, his ability to play an important role in this team. We all know how good of a player he is, but availability is the first trait you need at this level. And so that's really where we're at now, folks. We all love Ben White. We all know that he's a brilliant player. And so it's just a matter of seeing what the case is going to be in terms of who's starting. I want to wrap this video up by saying, regardless of who is starting, all of our defenders are going to play a really important role this season in terms of the amount of competitions we're in, the fixture congestion that we're going to experience throughout the season, especially in the winter period. So Ben White, Jurrien Timber, Ricardo Calafiori, they're all going to be getting plenty of minutes. That's not a concern at all. It's just going to be fascinating to see who Mikel Arteta sees most fit in terms of our strongest 11. And yes, of course, that's also going to change based on the opponents that we're facing, based on the winger perhaps that our right back is going up against, even our left back, because like I said, Ricardo Calafiori has shown moments where he can grow defensively still. So we are very blessed, and this is not at all me trying to create an agenda. It's just recognizing that there is this relevant conversation for us now to be considering as we build up and as the season develops. So that's it for this first video, folks. I want to thank you all for being here. Those of you who are here for the first official video of the Wenger's House YouTube channel. Of course, keep an eye out for all of the content that I post on the Instagram page, as well as the Patreon. If you are interested in joining Wenger's Clubhouse, there will be exclusive podcasts, articles, opportunities on there for any of you who want a little bit of additional content. And if you maybe want the chance to speak to me on a more direct basis, I'll be posting the links for both of those, the Instagram and the Patreon, in the description of this video. So I have to get used to saying, do make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this content. As we begin to build up this YouTube channel, expanding the Wenger's House platform beyond Instagram and Patreon. Of course, eventually I'll be trying to upgrade the content. I know the audio quality is not likely the greatest, nor the video quality. I'm currently recording on my iPhone without any external audio equipment. So I'm really excited to build on this with all of you. And yeah, let's see how Arsenal does against Bournemouth tomorrow. I'll be posting a preview video for the match tomorrow. So thank you all again, and let's do this, everybody. Not to steal the great James Nicholas of Arsblog and Arscast Extra. But yes, love to all of you, and I will see you soon. Come on, you Gunners. Peace, everybody.